For decades, we have been told, and statistics consistently prove, that commercial air travel is the safest form of transportation. It's a modern miracle built on layers of redundancy, meticulous engineering, and rigorous pilot training. Every system on a modern jetliner has a backup, and sometimes even a backup for the backup. The engines are marvels of reliability, capable of operating for thousands of hours without a single issue. This incredible safety record is the result of a century of learning, where every single incident, no matter how small, has been scrutinized to prevent it from ever happening again. This relentless pursuit of perfection has made flying far safer than driving a car to the grocery store. Despite this unparalleled safety record, the fear of flying remains a deeply ingrained part of the human psyche. We are terrestrial creatures, and the idea of hurtling through the sky at hundreds of miles per hour, miles above the ground, feels inherently unnatural. The media's portrayal of accidents, though they are exceptionally rare, magnifies this fear. When a plane does crash, it is a major international news event, broadcast in vivid detail. This creates a powerful cognitive bias. We remember the dramatic, fiery images of a crash far more easily than the millions of flights that land safely every single day, making the risk feel much greater than it actually is. This contrast between statistical reality and public perception creates a paradox. We intellectually understand that flying is safe, yet emotionally, we can't help but feel a twinge of anxiety. The sheer scale and finality of an aviation accident contribute to this feeling. A car crash is often survivable, but a plane crash from cruising altitude seems to offer no escape, feeding our deepest fears about a loss of control. It is this very fear, however, that has driven the industry to achieve its remarkable safety standards. The stakes are so high that no detail is considered too small and no precaution too extreme in the ongoing mission to make flying as close to perfectly safe as humanly possible. The truth is that the system works so well precisely because it is designed to account for potential failures. From air traffic controllers guiding planes through crowded skies to maintenance crews inspecting every rivet and wire, a global network of professionals works tirelessly behind the scenes. The aircraft themselves are designed to withstand incredible stress, from severe turbulence to lightning strikes. This complex interwoven system of technology and human expertise is what underpins the safety we often take for granted. It is only when an extraordinary and unforeseen chain of events breaks through these multiple layers of protection that a tragedy can occur. On June 12, 2025, the aviation world was shaken by a tragedy that seemed to defy explanation. An Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner, one of the most technologically advanced aircraft in the sky, crashed just moments after taking off from Ahmedabad, India. The flight was bound for a routine journey, but it ended in disaster less than a minute after its wheels left the runway. The aircraft, carrying 242 people, failed to gain significant altitude before it tragically struck trees and a chimney, ultimately crashing into a medical college complex near the airport. The impact was catastrophic, resulting in a devastating loss of life both on the aircraft and on the ground. The immediate aftermath was filled with confusion and questions. How could a state-of-the-art jetliner, flown by an experienced crew, simply fall out of the sky in clear weather? Early speculation ran wild, as it often does, pointing to everything from bird strikes to catastrophic mechanical failure. However, as investigators from India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau began their painstaking work, a more precise and chilling picture started to emerge. Data recovered from the flight recorders provided the first crucial clues, pointing not to an external event or a faulty component, but to a sequence of actions that took place inside the cockpit itself. The preliminary report, released a month after the crash, presented a shocking finding. Both of the aircraft's powerful engines had lost power almost simultaneously. The reason was not a mechanical malfunction. Instead, the flight data recorder showed that the fuel control switches for both engines had been moved from the run position to the cutoff position. This single action effectively starved the engines of fuel, silencing them at the most critical phase of flight, the initial climb. The aircraft had only reached an altitude of 650 feet, leaving the pilots with virtually no time or height to attempt a recovery. The crew's desperate final moments were captured on the cockpit voice recording. The first officer was heard asking the captain why the fuel had been cut off, a question the captain denied having any part in. The data showed a frantic attempt to save the aircraft. The fuel switches were moved back to the run position, and the engines began the process of relighting. But it was too late. The plane was too low and flying too slowly to regain the power and altitude needed to continue flying. The investigation had turned from a search for a broken part to a deep dive into the human factors that could lead to such a fatal and inexplicable action. As the investigation into the Air India disaster progressed, the focus shifted decisively away from the machine and onto the operators. The preliminary report from the AAIB was stark in its conclusion. There were no technical faults found with the Boeing 787 or its sophisticated General Electric engines. All required maintenance checks had been completed, and the aircraft was in perfect working order when it departed Ahmedabad. This finding ruled out the common culprits of mechanical failure or poor maintenance, forcing investigators to confront a more complex and often unsettling possibility that the crash was caused by human error, an action taken within the cockpit. The specific action, moving both engine fuel switches to cut off right after takeoff, is something that pilots are trained to never do outside of a severe emergency, like an uncontrollable engine fire. These switches are intentionally placed with protective guards to prevent accidental activation. For both to be moved at the same time is almost inconceivable as an accident. This has led experts to scrutinize the interactions between the two pilots, a highly experienced senior captain and a capable first officer. The cockpit voice recording of confusion and denial in the seconds after the power loss only deepens the mystery of what exactly transpired in that critical moment. This incident underscores a critical reality in modern aviation. As aircraft have become more reliable and automated, the human element has become the most significant factor in the majority of accidents. Technology has advanced to a point where catastrophic component failure is exceedingly rare. Today's challenges often lie in how pilots interact with complex automated systems, how they manage stress and workload, and how they communicate with each other, especially when something unexpected happens. The industry calls this crew resource management, and it is a core part of pilot training, designed to prevent misunderstandings and errors like the one that may have doomed the Air India flight. The investigation will continue for many months, delving into the pilots' training records, their personal histories, and their psychological states to understand the why behind the what. Was it a moment of profound confusion, a catastrophic mistake under pressure, or something else entirely? Without cockpit image recorders, which are not yet mandatory, the full truth of who did what and why may never be known with absolute certainty. What is certain is that this tragedy serves as a powerful reminder that even in an age of incredible technology, the final layer of safety in the cockpit remains profoundly human. Every aviation accident, while a terrible tragedy, serves as a crucial, albeit painful lesson for the entire industry. The primary goal of an investigation is not to assign blame, but to uncover the root cause of the incident so that steps can be taken to ensure it never happens again. Investigators from around the world will study the Air India crash, meticulously analyzing every piece of data from the flight recorders, the wreckage, and the operational history. The findings from this exhaustive process will be shared globally, leading to potential changes in pilot training protocols, cockpit procedures, and even aircraft design if necessary. In the case of the Ahmedabad crash, the focus on human factors will likely lead to a renewed emphasis on cockpit ergonomics and crew psychology. The industry might re-evaluate the design and placement of critical controls like the fuel cutoff switches to make an inadvertent or erroneous activation even more difficult. Furthermore, it will undoubtedly reignite the debate over the mandatory installation of cockpit image recorders. While controversial due to privacy concerns, such devices could provide invaluable, objective evidence in cases like this, where the sequence of physical actions inside the cockpit is the central mystery that needs to be solved for future prevention. This process of continuous improvement is the very foundation of aviation's remarkable safety record. The reason we can board a plane today with such confidence is because of the lessons learned from past accidents. Tragedies like this one lead to tangible safety enhancements that protect millions of future passengers. For instance, mid-air collisions in the past led to the development of the traffic collision avoidance system, now standard on all commercial aircraft. Similarly, incidents involving controlled flight into terrain prompted the creation of ground proximity warning systems, which have saved countless lives by alerting pilots when they are dangerously close to the ground. It is important to remember, even in the shadow of such a devastating event, that air travel remains extraordinarily safe. Incidents like the Air India crash are shocking precisely because they are so rare. They are aberrations in a system that operates with near-perfect success, completing tens of millions of flights safely every year. The loss of life is heartbreaking, but the legacy of those who perished will be a safer aviation system for generations to come. Every investigation is a solemn promise to the victims and their families. We will learn, we will improve, and we will do everything humanly and technologically possible to prevent this from ever happening again.